Please do not harass anyone mentioned in this video, and please keep your discussions about this situation respectful. This video contains heavy mentions of rape, SA, and brief mentions of child porn, racism, and anti-Semitism. If you are sensitive to these topics, please proceed with caution or click off this video. Melanie Martinez is someone who needs no introduction. She's a super famous singer and songwriter with a unique aesthetic of portraying super dark and controversial topics in a pastel, soft, childlike environment. In 2017, however, someone named Timothy Heller, another singer-songwriter and an ex-friend of Melanie Martinez, came out with accusations against her of SA. My name is Grapes, and I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And in my last video, I talked about Melanie's very poorly made and overpriced merchandise, where I briefly mentioned the accusations in 2017, though I didn't go into much detail about it as it wasn't the main focus. And I wasn't going to cover the allegations in a video until about a month later after making the original video about Melanie. I got a comment about the allegations and that they had resurfaced with a TikTok that Melanie made on the 19th of July. Hey, editing Grapes here. I don't know why I said Melanie made the TikTok. Timothy made the TikTok. I don't know why. I recorded that recording last week, and I'm editing it just now. I don't remember saying Melanie. In this video, we will be going over the entire situation from Timothy's original accusation in 2017 to Melanie's immediate response, to the tweets, then to today, along with other accusations that surfaced alongside Timothy's 2024 statements. This will all be chronological to my best efforts, and to remind you all that these are all allegations. Anything and everything I say in this video, aside from things with proof, is alleged, and nothing has been proven as of saying this. Without further ado, let's get into this. About a month before Timothy's testimony against Melanie in November 2017, she would make a vague tweet about Melanie saying, "What if I have my own story of abuse, but I'm too scared to ruin a person's life, and I still love them in a really fucked up way, and the public really loves them, and most probably wouldn't believe me." On the 5th of December 2017, Timothy Heller released her original statement where she accuses Melanie Martinez of raping her in June of 2015, in which starts this entire situation. I'm going to be reading Timothy's entire statement and cutting in when needed. My voice will be pitched lower to differentiate the statement and when I'm cutting it.
I have kept this a secret for years, convincing myself it wasn't a big deal and I wasn't hurt by it, though the thought of accepting that my best friend raped me seems insane. Even typing that doesn't seem real to me. I started telling my story to those closest to me as somewhat a joke. Haha, can you believe this crazy night? But I began to get responses that I wasn't expecting, concerned ones. It's hard to say someone you loved raped you, someone you still love.
So let's dissect this first paragraph, because this is where people start to accuse Timothy of lying because she didn't think it was rape at first, or that she still loved Melanie afterward. Now again, this is all just hypothetical. There is no proof that Timothy is a victim, nor is there proof that Melanie is an abuser. This is all just testimony, but I'm looking at it from both lenses and removing my bias as a fan of Melanie. Victims who are infatuated with their abusers will justify or just completely gloss over the abuser's actions, not knowing that they were bad compared to the outsiders that can see their bad actions. This is called rosy retrospection, or the commonly referred term rose-tinted glasses. And this is a proposed psychological phenomenon of recalling the past more positively than it was actually experienced. Many victims of abuse have gone through this retrospection, myself included, and it takes an outsider to hear what they have gone through to tell you that it isn't normal.
The thought of writing this and having the world see it terrifies me, especially because of who the person is. This was my best friend. She took me in, which I was so grateful for. I felt like I owed her my life, and my life began to revolve around hers.
This section can give an indication that this relationship was overall inherently toxic. Timothy explains that Melanie had taken her in, to my knowledge. This means that Melanie offered support to Tim during a rough time, like a place to sleep, food, water, etc., and felt like she needed to pay Mel back in some way. This could be Timothy's messed up moral compass, or it could be that Melanie was expecting something in return. Regardless, a friendship shouldn't be transactional, especially in a situation where a friend is in need of basic necessities.
I had my own problems, but if I could focus on her life, I could put off dealing with my own inner turmoil for just a bit longer. Some of her fans became my fans, but their loyalty never strayed from her. They are dedicated. She's perfect. To the public, she can do no wrong. She's there for her fans. She gets it. She's different. When faced with a friend who really needed help though, I can honestly say she let me down completely. During the most difficult time in my life, my rock bottom, her power and control over me grew, and I was silenced. While being opened about realizing how much help I needed, I was made to feel guilty. I had to apologize for having an extreme panic attack, where I thought I was going to die. Because it ruined her night, endless incidents like this, I'd become a problem. Yet through it all, I loved her. Codependency works in a lot of strange ways. In my relationship with this friend, I was dependent on helping her with her life.
This is another example of what infatuation can look like. Famous people like Melanie are put on a pedestal like they can do no wrong, which is just incorrect. This can also happen in relationships where one is in more control than the other, and is just an example that this relationship between Melanie and Timothy was just toxic in general.
As soon as I needed a small bit of focus and support from my best friend, there was nothing for us to relate to each other about. Our friendship was about her. The power she had over me grew into me having a very hard time saying no to her. I would do almost anything for her. One night during a sleepover, she became increasingly interested in my sexual preferences. As someone who had previously been through sexual abuse, sex is hard for me to talk about. I was obviously uncomfortable, but she was my best friend, so I tried to be open about it.
This part can be a little bit contradictory, according to Melanie's response to this statement, and we will get to it after this testimony. Timothy never gave a straight-up no, but that also means she never said yes, according to Timothy's statements. When it comes to any physical advances, unless you give a straight-up yes, then it is a no. A no is a no, a maybe is a no response is a no, and anything that isn't a yes is a no. It is also a no if you're underage, intoxicated, high, asleep, or under the influence of anything. There is a good video about consent in a sexual sense called Tea and Consent, but it can also be used in a general sense, like physical affection or being touched on the shoulder, and the video will be linked in the description. Timothy may have felt like her discomfort was obvious, but unless she had given Melanie a straight-up no, then she might have not known that. I learned this in therapy, but unless you're straightforward with your communication on what makes you uncomfortable, angry, upset, etc., then it is most likely not going to get the message to the other person. Dropping hints isn't communication. Remember that communication is key and goes both ways in this situation.
The conversation never seemed to end though. I had to work very early in the morning. She began asking me while in bed if I would have sex with her. While being incredibly uncomfortable by this offer, I attempted to laugh it off. I had a boyfriend at this time, and she knew that. He doesn't have to know. It's not a big deal.
I couldn't find anywhere that Timothy had a boyfriend at the time. I was probably looking in the wrong places, but if anyone has proof of this, please let me know in the comments.
It went on for hours, asking me why I didn't want to. That would be fun. I repeatedly said no. I had to work in the morning. I just wanted to sleep. I was exhausted. I attempted to sleep, but was kept up the entire night by my friend begging me to sleep with her. It seemed strange, but she was my best friend. I said no, and I thought we could move on. The next night unfortunately went the exact same way. Regardless of my response of the first night, she was not giving up. If she had gotten a hint, she didn't care.
This is where I would think Timothy did say no, but I don't know, I wasn't there, and Melanie did say she didn't say no. But that doesn't mean she didn't say yes. Remember that. I am going to keep reminding you of this.
I was exhausted. She convinced me to smoke weed, and since I have a hard time saying no to her, I complied, thinking maybe then I'd just be able to fall asleep and avoid the situation altogether. The same conversation began to happen, continuously trying to convince me it was going to be okay and it would be fun and feel good. I would say, my boyfriend would be so upset. I really need to sleep. I have work in the morning. I said every form of no I could think of. As I lay praying to fall asleep, she began touching my arm. I allowed this to happen.
This is where I start to personally side with Timothy. She had explained to us that she had repeatedly said no or in some form rejected Melanie's advances. Melanie had got her high, and to my knowledge got high herself and started getting physical with Timothy. Both parties were not sober, but Melanie ultimately got another person under the influence and got physical.
Maybe she'd give up. This went on for maybe an hour. I got increasingly uncomfortable. I started giggling, saying that it tickled. I in no way wanted to make this a sexual situation. Can I just do this? Can I just touch your arm? Can I just touch your boobs? She began bartering me, and all I wanted to do was go to sleep. She began talking about the appearance of my boobs and just begged to touch them. We didn't have to do anything else. I was so exhausted and confused and high and belittled, I just allowed it to happen. This led to her touching the rest of me. I never said yes, I said no repeatedly, but she used her power over me and just broke me down. Just so there is no confusion, I was molested by my best friend. I lay still, in shock, completely not reciprocating. I hate speaking so bluntly on this because it makes me extremely uncomfortable, but she performed oral sex on me, and then I was penetrated with a sex toy without being asked. That's what happened. Bottom line that I need to always remind myself is that I said no for 2 nights straight.
This could be debated. You repeatedly explain that you said no as in the word no, but you use examples that don't use no. You use examples like, I'm tired, I have work in the morning, I have a boyfriend. But in despite of this, Melanie should have stopped because you never said a verbal yes.
It doesn't matter that I didn't resist during the action. I had been broken down. She knew I didn't want to. I made that clear. I didn't scream at her. I didn't force her off me. 1, because I loved her. 2, because I wanted it all to be over.
Cutting in here to clarify that coercion is a form of sexual assault. If someone is making physical/sexual advances at you and you say no at first, but they keep pushing until you say yes, that is assault. This is what Timothy most likely means when she said she was broken down.
We never talked about this night ever again. While it completely messed with my head, there was no way I could have been raped by my best friend, right? Our friendship ended because she decided she didn't have time for me anymore, to worry about me anymore. She cared too much about me. It was holding her back. I'm not sure how to end this story. I'm terrified of the response I'm going to get. The only reason I do this now is because I'm hoping of recent events, people will believe me. If you begin to doubt the abuse taking place in my story, I beg you to imagine her role in this being a man. Girls can rape girls. Best friends can rape best friends. Friendship does not equal consent. Silence does not equal consent. I wish it wasn't so hard for me to convince myself of these things.
That concludes Timothy's first testimony. There are a few noticeable contradictions in this testimony, like how she said no, but giving examples that don't include the word no, which still doesn't justify Melanie's alleged actions. Whether she doesn't understand or doesn't care about consent, that doesn't matter in the eyes of the law. She can still be prosecuted for SA. I would also like to mention, before I get into Melanie's response statement, I've noticed that some people have been trying to fake claim Timothy's testimony by saying she doesn't remember the day it happens, or she still remained close with Melanie, and that's such a bad call to make when denying allegations of abuse, because many people experience abuse differently. Not remembering the day of your abuse is a very common thing to happen. Not remembering horrible events in your life is a way for your brain to protect you in some way. It's called trauma-induced amnesia, which I think is what she had, but I'm not gonna armchair her with her trauma. And with the statement that she was still friends with Melanie after it happened, therefore Timothy wasn't raped, is so stupid. I don't know if you remember, but she literally said she didn't think it was rape until after it happened. And also, Melanie was providing for Timothy in some way, whether that be shelter, food, etc. Then again, these are all just speculations. The only people that know what happened that night is Timothy and Melanie. With that being said, let's get into Melanie's response. After Timothy Heller posted her testimony, Melanie Martinez would respond very shortly after on the 5th of December 2017, the same day the accusation was made, to which she denies the allegations, and then another testimony on the 10th of December 2017. Again, I'm going to be reading the entire statement and cutting in when needed, and my voice will be pitched higher to differentiate from the statement and when I'm cutting in.
I am horrified and saddened by the statements and story told tonight by Timothy Heller. What she and I shared was a close friendship for a period of time. We came into each other's lives as we were both starting our careers as artists, and we tried to help each other. We both had pain in dealing with our individual demons and the new paths we were forging, but I truly felt we were trying to lift each other up. She never said no to what we chose to do together.
So, Melanie just shot herself in the foot with this one. Blank never said no is a typical sentence used by abusers to try and save themselves, but I shall reiterate, you cannot consent to sex if you are underage, high, drunk, unconscious, intoxicated, and if you didn't say yes. You cannot consent if you didn't say yes. You cannot consent if there was never a verbal yes. I will keep saying this. Just because you didn't say no does not mean they said yes.
And though we parted ways, I am sending her love and light always. I understand how hard it could be to see my side of the story. Considering no one with a heart would want to invalidate someone speaking up about this topic, I want to thank my fans who took the time to research the timeline, analyze past Instagram photos, and question the story being told, which revealed her false statements. I trusted so many people in my life who took advantage of that trust for their own personal gain. Please know that my intentions with everything that I do in my life are always pure, and I would never be intimate with someone without their absolute consent.
A contradictory statement, because absolute consent that would mean Timothy said yes, and you both were high. If I keep having to say just because someone never said no, that doesn't mean it's a yes, I'm going to explode. So now we have confirmation that they did have sex, or at least had sexual relations. But the question still remains which story is true, because one of the statements is making accusations against a person, while the other is said person denying the accusations. Now it's just up to personal opinion, because at the end of the day, these are just testimonies. There is no proof involved, and all of this is mainly word of mouth or word of text. And any sort of pictures or tweets that weren't testimonies are fake and have been proven fake. After Melanie's response, a lot of people came to her side and essentially harassed Timothy Heller off the internet, which would stop the situation for about 6 to 7 years until Timothy returned in July 2024, which we shall get into shortly. There was a tweet going around where Timothy was tired of the harassment and admits she made up the accusations for clout, but that has been proven false, and I even looked at the archive of Timothy's old Twitter, and that tweet was nowhere to be found. On the 22nd of December 2017, Melanie released a song called Piggyback on SoundCloud, which is a sort of vent/diss track on Timothy and potentially other people, saying stuff like, trusted too many fake people while I was still young, cut them off, and they came for blood because they know they ain't getting no more. And that's just not great in my humble opinion. Being accused of a heinous crime that has no justification whatsoever, then making a song about it calling people fake or gold diggers, it just sounds so petty. After Piggyback release, things were relatively quiet about the situation. Occasionally there would be a debate on YouTube or Twitter, but overall it had subsided until July of 2024. On the 19th of July 2024, hey, a day after my birthday, Timothy Heller posted a 6-minute and 12-second video on TikTok under the user FrickMyLife5000, to which he explains how speaking out against Melanie Martinez ruined her life.
Speaking out against my abuser ruined my life, and I'd like to talk to you about it. I'm going to be reading something I wrote. It's not particularly well written, but I just needed to collect my thoughts. Whether you know who I am or not, I ask you to please listen to my story. If you do recognize me, then you haven't heard from me in a couple of years, and that's because I was effectively run off the internet. You also may have heard that I admitted to lying or that it was proven that I lied. Neither are true. Speaking out against my abuser ruined my life. Here's how we got to that point. During the Me Too movement, I chose to speak out against a former friend who had essayed me. I was young, naive, and could never imagine how this would end up affecting my life. I believed that as long as I told the truth, things would turn out alright. I was very wrong. After my initial statement, describing in detail what happened, my abuser issued a statement in response. She used the sentence, "She never said no to what we chose to do together." While I did say no, in many different ways, the sentence was actually quite validating for me to hear. She clearly didn't understand how consent works, and she admitted that something took place between us. I wish it ended there. I made the mistake of doing an interview with Daily Mail. While being interviewed, they asked for more specific details, like when the incident took place. It'd been around 2 years prior, so I didn't remember the exact date. What I did remember was a picture I took the next day. I went back in my camera roll, found the picture, and told them the day of the incident was the day before. Unfortunately, I was wrong. The picture in my camera roll appeared multiple times. I can't explain why. When the interview came out, her fans went back in her posts to that date to find that we were in different states. If you've never heard my story before, you might at this point wonder, why would that matter? She admitted something between you took place in her statement. I agree, and this is just one of the parts that drives me crazy. After this discovery, she released a second statement, in which she thanks her fans for researching the timeline and analyzing past Instagram posts which reveal my false statements. Unfortunately, this was enough for 99% of her fans to take what she said as truth and deem me a liar. The complete contradiction of her statements meant nothing. The events after this are so much and so overwhelming it's hard for me to recount. She ended up releasing essentially a diss track about me, with lyrics perpetuating the idea that I lied about all of this for fame. I was a small musician at the time, and after speaking out, gained tens of thousands of followers. While there were some supporters, the majority of the followers were people who actively hated me. I suddenly had thousands of hate accounts dedicated to me, thousands of dislikes and negative comments on all of my music, and completely ridiculous fabricated stories of me being posted online. I really hoped it would die out and people who liked me would stick around and I'd be able to move on with my career, but it never died. Anything I attempted to do was infected with this story. Googling me results in many first-page results calling me a liar. The people who hated me took it upon themselves to ruin every opportunity for me. Partnerships with brands, modeling opportunities, they were all flooded with comments saying I lied about SA. In addition to this, my home address, phone number, and family's phone numbers were all leaked. I became so discouraged with my own music career, I essentially stopped. I started doing SW in an attempt to regain some autonomy, but that was taken from me as well when people who hated me hacked the account. I was just trying to move on. My adult content was being spread and mocked by the people who hated me. Every single one of my social media accounts was hacked, including my email. The only thing they didn't get into was my bank account. I was given the classic fuck the haters advice, but until you're bombarded with the amount that I had to endure, you really can't imagine how it would affect you. It was just so much louder than any amount of support I was receiving. As you can imagine, my mental health was and is majorly affected by this situation. And while I wish I was the type of person with the confidence to say fuck the haters and stick it out, I'm just not. I'm sensitive and not self-confident and never have been. And this made it so much worse. It got to the point where I could no longer put up with the abuse. Holding onto this public image was no longer worth the pain, and I deactivated all of my public accounts. In doing this, I also saw this as completely giving up on being a musician. I couldn't put myself through the public scrutiny anymore. So that's where I've been the past couple of years, in private. It was a huge relief to no longer be bombarded with the amount of hate I was receiving every day, but now I'm stuck with the after effects. I imagine every day the life that I could have lived if this all hadn't happened. Would I be the musician I always wanted to be? It's kept me in a complete freeze state. I won't go into too much detail about how much I've been suffering the past couple of years. Frankly, it's embarrassing. I wish I could move on, but I've never wanted things to be over more than I have now. I've been in partial hospitalization programs and attempted to regain any semblance of confidence and hope for my life, but I can't shake that this is the wrong timeline for me. I didn't do anything wrong, I spoke the truth. If you're familiar with my story, you may have also heard that I admitted to lying, and I can assure you that never happened. There were photoshopped images spread around of a confession that never happened because I have nothing to confess. I never lied. You may have also heard that I accused other celebrities of this, which I can promise you never happened either. There's so many other terrible things that people have made up about me that I'm not going to dissect and defend right now, but I was successfully gaslit into thinking I was a bad person who deserved this. I'm so scared to speak out about this again. There's a high possibility that I won't receive any support from this, and people who hate me will target me again, and I go back into hiding. I ask that if you are someone who is under the impression that I lied about this, to please hear me out. Please think about her contradicting statements. Please realize that there's no one on earth who knows what happened that night besides me and her, and even the smallest possibility that I could be telling the truth should be enough for you to not want to risk ruining an innocent person's life in this way. I'm completely exhausted from begging people to believe me for years now. I'm not sure what I'm hoping will come from this. It's gotten to be quite humiliating to beg people to care. But if you haven't heard my story before, thank you for hearing me, and I could really use your help in rewriting the false narrative of who I am and what happened to me.
This is an incredibly heartbreaking video. Hardcore Melanie fans and just Timothy haters in general ruined her dreams of becoming a music artist and tore down any other jobs she did. Collabs and sponsorships were shot down by people she's saying she made false accusations of SA under comments. The comments under the TikTok was filled with Melanie supporters, and it's just gross. And all of these Melanie supporters that are taking the situation at face value, they just sound like this one voice critical clip.
Listen, I dislike sexual assault as much as the next guy. That's some bad stuff. Rape, boo, don't like it. But
some Melanie supporters have even said this, which is disgusting. And even if this was like a 12-year-old, it's still disgusting and should be held responsible, because that is such a heavy statement to say, and it's such a heavy action, and it's so traumatizing for people to go through. Don't say this! These accusations were never proven, nor were they disproven, and yet people are still taking this situation as if it's a closed case. At the end of the day, it's all up to personal opinion, because this situation belongs in a court. Even though I know it's very hard to fight cases like these, while I do agree that we should always support the potential victim, we should also remember that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And other than testimonies that can be contradicted, nothing has been proven. Before we reach the conclusion of this video, some people have been resurfacing tweets and Tumblr posts made by Melanie and Timothy to try and prove one or the other is innocent/guilty, and I'd like to discuss them shortly. Starting strong with Melanie's Tumblr, she allegedly drew child porn, and that's just wrong. That's wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong! The art is of her character Crybaby, which Melanie portrays herself, and she was 19 when she posted this. And it's also based off a photo shoot that she did, which I cannot find anymore, unfortunately, so take with a grain of salt. So this is just wrong. She didn't draw CP, and if she did, that would be a different crime and wouldn't directly correlate to the Timothy allegations. Next is Timothy's tweets of saying the N-word and supporting Hitler. There isn't much to say. It's bad. It's straight up not okay. She is a white woman, and I shouldn't have to explain why supporting Hitler is bad, assuming everyone has taken a history class. But there shouldn't be a reason to call her a liar of SA or makes her potential victimhood invalid. Victims aren't perfect angels, and it's so hurtful to call someone invalid because of their past beliefs or actions, whether they are victims or potential victims. But it should be unrelated to the SA accusations. I didn't expect to be talking about this situation or Melanie this soon, but here we are. The situation is a mess, and at the end of the day, this is all alleged. Nothing has been proven, and it's all up to public opinion at this point. Allegations of this degree and weight belong in a court, not in the eyes of the public. But I understand where Timothy is coming from when bringing this out to the internet, as it was at the height of the Me Too moment. Whether Melanie is going to respond to Timothy's most recent video on TikTok is unclear, but considering how fast she responded to the first statement, I can't say for sure she's going to respond. It could be her PR team is holding her back, or she's ignoring it, or she genuinely doesn't know Timothy came back. But if she does make a response, I doubt it will contain proof, and it will just spark more opinions and debates. I stayed mostly neutral in the situation because, like I said before, the situation belongs in a court, and nothing has been proven or disproven. I also think it's reckless to choose sides when it comes to heavy accusations like this. I'm not going to call Melanie a rapist, but I'm also not going to call Timothy a liar. Every victim from potential to proven should be supported, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I made this video to create an open discussion on the situation, not to spread my opinions as fact. I know I'm probably going to get hate on this video considering there has been so much fighting over this situation, but it's honestly whatever. I'm doing the smartest thing I can for this situation and bringing this timeline together in one place. If you have your own thoughts on this situation, please comment below, though I do ask you to please be respectful in your conversations. Don't be rude or hateful to someone with differing opinions from you. Don't call them rape apologists or supporting a liar of a heavy accusation. It doesn't help your case and your comment is going to get deleted. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. And have a good day or night and go get 8 hours of sleep because school is starting.